Alright, so Hapsburg Eclipse, Victory Point Games, part of their States of Siege series, which are all solitaire games. The funny part is, I actually bought this at the game store that I go to, and I what made me like take a look at it was the box art cut, was the box art, and because I really couldn't read the whatever the title was, and like my first thought seeing that castle was, oh, is this some sort of like vampire game, like some sort of gothic, I don't know, romance adventure game? I'm thinking, man, maybe my wife would actually play that with me, I don't know. So then of course I picked it up and like, oh, Victory Point Games, like, oh, Hapsburg Eclipse, and I'm like, oh, it's one of those, because I had played Soviet Dawn. I have the Soviet Dawn that came in C3I magazine, and I've also played Levion Mas a few times on the actually on the iPad. So, and for those of you that don't know anything about that series, basically you have a sort of a center fixed point on the map that's you, more or less, and there are like these forces encroaching upon you, and the game is driven by cards that you turn over. Like a lot of like a lot of solitaire games that have you, I mean, sort of like Arkham Horror almost, like you have to turn the card over and something bad happens, and then you have to make certain decisions to to try to win the game, basically. What I really like about these games, generally in these Victory Point games, these solitaire games, so that center point is basically being attacked, let's say, basically militarily. But what I really like in the games that I played is beyond that, there's other things going on that are more like political in nature. I guess certainly in Levion Mas really has, I think, a lot of that, and you don't get that really much with a lot of war games, I don't think. Some people, I think even Victory Point games themselves, like I can't remember if it's in the rule book for this one or something else, where like the game's described as being telling a story through a game, like almost like they're apologizing or whatever, saying, "Ah, we're not really. This is not really much of a game or whatever." I personally don't agree with that. I think, I know what I really like in games is decisions that you make, and these games definitely have that. I mean, yeah, I mean, you're not playing against a human opponent, so of course it's not going to be as but actually I was getting ready to say there's not going to be any surprises, but there are surprises, especially like as you're playing, because not because I'm trying to not spoil the game for myself, but I don't sit there and like go through every card first, so like I know what's coming. So I know like the first few times I played this, there were some cards came in, I'm like, oh shit. If I had known that, maybe I would have done something differently or whatever, but still. And that's, well actually, I'll get to more about, what I think about it after I show how it's played and all. But yeah, actually, of the games that I had, of the States of Siege games that I had, this is easily my favorite one so far. And like I said, I played Soviet Dawn, Levion Mas. I have Cruel Necessity, which is the English Civil War. I have not played that yet. Oh, and Soviet Dawn is basically the Russian Civil War. Levion Mas is the French Revolution. I think probably the most famous game in the series is probably Zulus on the Ramparts. That might be the first one. I don't know. And I'm really looking forward to trying Cruel Necessity, since the English Civil War is one of my sort of favorite historical periods. And that was the other thing I really liked about this game is what it's about. So you're playing as the Hapsburg Empire, and you're trying to. It's not so much that you're trying to. It's not so much that you're trying to win the war. You're trying to get to the end of World War One, and basically maintaining the Habsburg monarchy. Which I thought is, I don't know, like a really cool idea for a game. So anyway, let's take a look at the game then. Okay, let's work through this sequence of play. The headline phase is basically you just turn over the top card. Some cards don't have an event up here because the next phase is the event resolution phase. Our card number 4, this is the Battle of Mons, so it does have an event, and that is to conduct this Western theater battle, the Battle of Mons. So we need to roll a 5 or a 6 to achieve a victory. A 1, 2, or a 3 is a defeat, and a 4 will be a stalemate. So we rolled a 4, so that piece goes to the stalemates box. Now, army movement phase. We advance the Polish front. Now, the card also calls for the advance of the Balkan and Italian fronts. Neither one of them are in play yet. Continue on down the loyalty adjustment phase. Now, here's where you roll down here to see the support of the different ethnic groups in the empire. Now sometimes it'll well actually I think most of the time it'll tell you which one to roll against. This one says random, so you can see over here there's little die symbols. So you roll, right, we rolled a 3, so we will be rolling for the level of Czech support. We rolled a 5, which exceeds their natural support level, so they will stay all the way over to the right. And then we are left with 2 actions. So I could take an offensive against the Polish front and try to push it back all the way over to the number 5 spot. Or you can use 2 actions to purchase a German staff reserve action, which you can use later as like additional actions. But when you first buy it, you place it in one of the off-map theater boxes, and it gives you a +1 die roll modifier for subsequent rolls. So if I had this placed there, and I had rolled before on the Battle of Mons, that actually would have made that a victory. So I will use those 2 actions to place that in the Western Theater on the off-map theaters box. Alright, so that adjudicates the card. Now going down here, the Kaiserschlacht phase, that doesn't occur until later in the game. Now the Fortress Reduction phase, so whenever the Carpathian front advances beyond Chasmazel, this will start getting reduced each turn that this front is beyond that. But they haven't advanced at all, so that's not a problem yet. And then the National Will phase, you take the number of victories, which is 0, minus the number of defeats, which is 0. Stalemates have no effect, and also minus the number of strategic spaces that are being occupied by the Allies, of which are none. So the National Will remain at 0. And that is your basic turn. Okay, at this point of the game, I'm in to the Great War status, so I'm all the way over on the War status track, and I've gone through this many cards, but this many remain. I'll say this is the best that I have done so far. I've gone through quite a few of the off-map theater battles, and I've won. Let's see. In fact, I just now, if I need to update my National Will track status, let's do that right now. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 victories, so minus 5 defeats, So I'm +1 on there, but none of the fronts, I believe. Yeah, so none of the fronts are occupying any of the strategic spaces on the map. So I'm still +1 overall. The Polish front is out of the game. The Romanian front is also out of the game. The Bulgarian front is in the game, but I still have the Bulgarian trench line. So, and then of course you have the Italians over here, very difficult for them to, just like the Bulgarians, they have to roll under their, basically their combat level here to advance any further. And I still have, let's see, 2 Mackinson chits, which allow me to roll 2 dice. I still have my radio intercepts and 2 German aid markers. And I have my German staff reserve action counters here. And I actually still have 2 that I haven't placed. So overall, I have spent, although I have spent 3 of the Mackinson counters, but overall doing pretty good. So let's see what the next card's going to be. Alright, it's the Otranto Barrage. So we're going to conduct this naval theater battle. Alright, so that is a 4. So if I roll a 4, it becomes a stalemate. If I beat that, it's a victory, and if I come in under it, it's a defeat. And again, I have the +1 modifier to the roll. Okay, I rolled a 3 up to a 4. Matched it, so that goes to the stalemates box. Continuing on down the card, we advance the Italian front. They do not roll high enough, low enough, so they do not advance. The Balkan front, same thing. They also do not advance. And the Romanian front is out of the game, so no advancement there. Okay, on the national loyalties track, we have to roll for the Croats, and their support levels 3. So they do drop down 1 away from revolt, and that leaves us with 1 action. Okay, so at this point of the game, as I said, I'm doing fairly well. And really the most dangerous thing to me right now is probably the Croats being so far down on their loyalty track. So I think I'm going to go ahead and roll, see if I can move them back up a little bit. So they slide up 1 on the loyalties track, and this card is complete. Okay, this is the Bolshevik Revolution. Alright, so the event, you remove the Polish and Carpathian fronts. Now the Polish front has already been removed, so we'll remove the Carpathian front. The Italian front and the Balkan fronts will attempt to advance. Okay, then have the Hungarians need to roll on the national loyalties track. And now I'm left with 2 actions. My first thought is to maybe try and push back the Italian front, but since really nothing is threatening me too bad right now, and I have 2 actions, I'm going to use those to bring in a German staff reserve action and place it in the naval theater so giving me the max +2 die roll modifier there. Now there's only one, the Danube Flotilla, that's the only naval battle remaining that we haven't tried to resolve yet. However, it would be really nice to win that, so I can place that in the victories box. Plus these might come in handy later as extra actions later in the game. Alright, so continuing on. Alright, so there is no event this turn. This card is called, let's see here, Strafenpedition. So let's read that. In May of 1916, the Austrians launched a major offensive against the Italians, directed in the Trentino region of northern Italy. Dubbed the Straf Expedition, punitive expedition, a reference to the perceived Italian betrayal of the Triple Alliance. The offensive was initially successful, but it had to be abandoned because forces needed to be redeployed to meet the Russian threat. Alright, so this calls for the Balkan front to advance, the Carpathian and Polish fronts to advance. Now, neither one of these are in the game any longer, but we need to roll to see if the Balkan front will advance. Okay, so the army in Salonika will advance 1 space to the Veles spot. Now, if this front is able to advance beyond the number 4 spot, the Bulgarian trench line counter will go away, but as long as it's there, it's okay for right now. And we had the Czechs drop down 1. The Croats drop down 1. Alright, so not a good card so far. We do have 3 actions, and we have a +1 modifier on the Italian front. But I really want to push the Balkan armies back, the Bulgarians back here, to make sure I don't lose the Bulgarian trench line. So a very costly but successful offensive against the Balkan front will move them back. And that is all the actions I have. For this card, should still be, let's do the national will track. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, +1, no strategic areas are being occupied. So we are still, no one is in revolt yet, so we are still overall a +1 on the national will track. We do definitely have some loyalties problems down here, because one of the ways you can lose the game is to have all 3 of these in revolt. You automatically lose at that point. So I think continuing on from here, I'm definitely going to concentrate on that, but obviously you have to react to, you know, whatever comes up in the cards. Alright, so we'll check back in later to see how this game is going. Okay, so here we definitely have some of the, you know, the randomness in the game, which I like. It's so the event says flip the Polish and Carpathian fronts to their weaker side. If they are on the map, retreat them 1 space. If not, return them to the highest numbered space on their track. So neither one of them, or in fact, you know, I did not read this the right way the first time. Like I thought, oh, you know, flip them if they're there, and if not, they don't, you know, they don't come back. But no, if they're not on the map, they return to the highest number space on their track. So the Carpathians So the Carpathians come back here, flip to their 3, and the Polish come back. I guess we get rid of the Russian retreat, and they come back to their 5, their 5 spot at strength 2. Okay, so here we start to see how these initially weaker fronts, like in Italy and down here in Bulgaria, they can start to gain strength. In fact, the Balkan front is already increased by 1. And now the Italian front, this event calls for the Italian front to increase its strength by 1. So it will go up to a 3. Alright, so I had the Russia Tires event come out, and I was successful in that. So you receive that counter as a victory. And really, the overview at this point in the game, when I am over halfway through the deck of cards, I'm doing quite well. I got the National Will Track is on 3. Loyalty, I don't have any problems there, really. While these fronts are back in play right now, they are definitely, the 2 Russian armies are weaker, and I'm still managing to hold back the Balkan and Italian front. So we'll continue on, and have not had to use any of my little helper counters yet. Well, at least since about 10 card plays ago. So let's continue. Okay, so the Czechs have dropped into revolt since the card called them to trigger twice failed both die rolls. So they are in revolt, and it will be -1 die roll modifier on offensives against the Polish and Carpathian fronts. 2 actions, both of which I will use to try to get the Czechs back into the Empire's grip. Okay, so we get the Czechs to slide up 1, and they are no longer in revolt. The final naval battle that I haven't done yet. Actually, I rolled a 6. So even with my plus, I didn't even need the +2, but still that's very good. That goes to the victory. Go move my National Will up. The Balkan and Italian fronts will attempt to advance. Okay, neither one of them rolled high enough. No trigger on the loyalties track, very good. 2 actions plus 1 on the Romanian. There is no Romanian front in the game. So, see, first action I'm going to take against the Polish front. When I had the Lodz +1 die roll modifier, which I've actually had since maybe the 2nd or 3rd card play of the game. However, I only rolled a 1, so up to a 2, not good enough. I think I am going to attempt that again. And this time I rolled a 5 up to a 6, so no problem. They get pushed back. Alright, no offent. The Czech Declaration of Independence. That doesn't sound good. So we attempt to advance the Italian and Balkan fronts. Neither one of them rolled low enough. Okay, but the trigger. So let's take a look at this. You keep rolling for Czech loyalty until either it enters a revolt or the marker does not move down. Okay. And they're 1 away from going into revolt anyway. and they go into revolt. Rolled a 2. So the unruly Czechs are revolting again. So your actions are equal to Czech loyalty. So 0 actions for that card. Well, let's take a look at the National Will track. So we have 3, 6, 9 victories, 5 defeats. So that would be +4. No strategic areas are occupied. We have one group that's in revolt here on the National Loyalties track. So yeah, we are still at 3. Okay, now this is an interesting card. So you advance the Balkan front a box regardless of the Bulgarian trenches, then take 1 action. And so basically you continue to advance the front until you manage to push it back, or basically until you lose the game. So also if the front winds up in the 4th box or ahead of it, the Bulgarian trench line goes away. So starts out, it was already in the 5th spot, so it will move 1. And since I want to maintain the Bulgarian trench line, obviously I am going to use German aid counter, which will give me +2 to my roll. And we're getting pretty far down in the card deck, so I think I'm going to use a Mackinson counter as well, just to really make sure that I push them back. So, and this is what I rolled. So anyway, pick the best of the 2 for the Mackinson counter, 1. Add to 3, it's not going to be good enough, so it will continue to advance. And now the aid counter will continue to give me +2 for any subsequent rolls. So I'll roll again. This time I get a 5 up to a 7, no problem. So that does push it back. But unfortunately, it does end in the 4 box, so the Bulgarian trench line all goes away and the Balkan front remains there. Okay, we've drawn the Kaiserschlacht Begins card number 42. I've already done all of these. I was going to show you now how you do this. So basically, this is the big German offensives at the end of the war. So each one of these battles, and basically they're all off-map theater battles in the Western Front. So from now on in the sequence of play in this Kaiserschlacht phase, the lowest unfought battle you fight. And okay, so I rolled a 4, and you fight it just like many other battles. So we have 2 German staff reserve actions in the Western Front, so we're adding 2 to our roll, so it goes up to a 6. But we have the war weariness marker out, so that's -1. We're down to a 5. That's still good enough to beat the 3, and that gets placed in the victories box. So from now on to the end of the game, and there's not too much of the game left, we will fight the next battle in line with the Americans you see arriving in France here at the end, very end of the war. Anyway, you continue fighting until the war ends. Well, you know, until the game ends, or until, like, you know, they've all been fought. Then at that point, you will roll a die, and you will refight whichever battle you've re-rolled, and you will continue doing that until all the battles are in one of the boxes. And yeah, that's it for the Kaiserschlacht phase. Okay, so going into the final, let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, we have 5 cards remaining in the game. My national will is still at a +2, very good. However, I'm out of my radio intercepts and Mackensen counters. I do have 1 German aid counter left. The Polish front is in the 2 spot. A little trouble in loyalty, but you know, overall, fairly confident. But sorry. So let's see how the game ends. Increase the battle value of the Balkan front. Goes up to a 4. And we advance the Carpathian front, and the Balkan front advances. Not good. Trigger the Hungarians. They stay loyal. Okay, we have 2 actions. I think it's... I'm not sure there's any more cards left in the deck that will fail multiple tracks on the national loyalties track, because that is definitely looking like a good way that I can lose the game. I will take 1 action to roll against the Hungarians to get them all the way back over, and that is successful. Then I will take the 2nd action to roll against the Polish front, since they are the closest front to Vienna right now. So I rolled a 3. I have +1 on the Polish front, so that goes up to a 4. Of course, I have -1 overall, back down to a 3, but that is still good enough. Plus, that gets them out of the Tarnow strategic spot. Alright, now the next Kaiserschlacht battle. Okay, so I rolled a 5 + 2 goes up to a 7, -1 down to a 6, but that is still good enough for a victory. Alright. Now, fortress reduction phase. I haven't had to do this yet, but so that does get reduced. But we're pretty close to the end, so I'm not too worried about that. Alright, national will phase, 3, 6, 9, 10, 11. -8, this has a 3 overall. And yeah, so I actually improved my overall national will. Not bad, not bad. The final Western Front battle, Nivelle. That will be a defeat. The Carpathians advance. The Polish front advances. Trigger the Hungarians. They do drop, and that leaves me with 2 actions, which I will take against. I will apply the German aid counter to the Carpathian front and use both actions against them. So overall, I'm going to be getting +1 for the modifier for the fortress, +2 more, so +3, but then -1 for war awareness. So a +2 overall. So for the first action, rolled a 4. So that's good enough. We push them back 1. the second action. I rolled a 6, so no problem, and that also prevents the fortress from being reduced again. That is my last German aid counter, though. The next Kaiserschlacht battle, a horrible defeat. Getting kind of stacking up the defeats here. So, alright, so let's see, that's alright, National Will phase. 3, 6, so still 3, 6, 9, 12 victories against 10 defeats, so that's 2 overall, but minus 1. So down to a 1. Oh, I don't know if I counted him last turn. So our National Will has now dropped to 0 overall. Alright, well, it's still in the game. Okay, if it is still in play, flip the Romanian front over to its Avarescu side. If out of play, return it to its present side on its 5 space. So the Romanian front is finally returning to the game. That actually be pretty much be impossible for them to get into Vienna. Alright, so okay, so we advance the Balkan front and the Carpathians, trigger the Croats who do go into revolt. So that will be another negative. That's a negative on the Balkan front as well. So 2 actions. Alright. Definitely have some decisions to make. It's really coming down to the wire here. We have 2 cards left. The Polish and Balkan fronts are within striking distance of Vienna. So I'm going to... I will attack the Polish front. We'll do an offensive on the Polish front. So we have +1 for that, -1, so that cancels itself out. There shouldn't be any other modifiers. The Czechs are not in revolt. Alright, so very nice victory there. And now we will attempt an offensive against the Balkan front now, due to the fact that the Croats are in revolt. We have a -1 die roll modifier against the Balkan and Italian fronts. So, man, I only rolled a 1, so that's not going to be good enough. Conduct the final Kaiserschlacht battle. That is a defeat. Fortress reduction phase. Okay, so 3, 6, 9, 10, 12. So minus 11. So that puts us at 1 for that. However, we are... so we have 1 in revolt. And even though the Balkan front has advanced, that counts as being occupied, so we're now down to -1, and that should be it. Alright, let's see what next card play. So if at the end of the turn the Italian front is in the 6th space, remove it. If the Italian front is not removed, increase its battle value by 1. Alright, that's fine. There's no way. Obviously, I'm going to get it back. Oh, yeah. There's no way I'm going to get it to the 6. I'm not really worried about that. I'm not too worried about it increasing either. The Carpathians advance. Oh, and the Balkans advance. The Balkan front advance. They are very close to Vienna. The Czechs are the loyalty trigger. They go into revolt. Oh, it's all crumbling. And that gives us two actions and a +1 die roll modifier on the Italian front, but the Italians are not really a threat. We are definitely going to have to concentrate on everything against the Balkan front. So first action, an offensive against them. I rolled a 1, that is not going to do it. Second action, and add another 1. So the Balkan front will remain. So we have 1 card left to play. We have 2 ethnic groups in revolt. However, the Hungarians are far enough up the track that I won't lose the game that way. The national will is at -4, so I could possibly lose it that way. But most distressing is the Balkan front is in Belgrade, and so if it comes up that that front advances into Vienna, that I will instantly lose the game. So the final card, and well, just about all the fronts advance, including the Balkan front. Well, first says each national readjustment is automatically successful, is not applicable. Okay, so that's the event, which we won't even get to because the Balkan front will advance into Vienna, and I will lose the game on the very last card play. This is the furthest I've gotten. This is the 6th or 7th time I've played the game. Okay, well, there you have Hapsburg Eclipse. That was, I guess the third, I don't know, maybe 3rd or 4th time I played the game. I don't remember if I said this while I was recording, but that is the first time I've gotten all the way through the deck. So even though I didn't win the game, I kind of count that as a pseudo victory. And yeah, like this is one thing I was going to say, like in the very beginning, that I guess that I really like the game. My only and I really like the system in general. My only concern, I guess, would be, like, I kind of felt the first couple of times I played it, like mainly just getting the rules down, and also mainly since I was going to video it, I really wanted to get the rules down and get really comfortable playing it. But then going into that last game, I had a strategy, I guess, and I don't know, I guess I was kind of thinking, I wonder if, like, is it like a puzzle? Like, do you get to the point where, oh, this is how you win? Like, this is what you do to win? I don't really think so, though. I think the way the cards come out, and I was trying to remember if the other games are seemingly as random as this one, in that, like, when you start out with the blue deck, and kind of, I mean, basically the first card you turn over, you can, you slide the worst, you could be the card that slides the worst status over, and you can and add the kind of, you know, mid-war, or I think it's you go from mobilization to whatever, like total war or whatever, I can't remember. But anyway, you add the mourning cards to the deck, but you shuffle in all the blue ones, so the blue ones are still going to come out. You just don't know when, like, they're coming out. And then you could maybe get to the dusk, the final deck, you know, pretty fast too, or you can maybe go all the way through the, you know, the morning deck, and then like, you know, then add the, you know, the second deck, and maybe go almost all the way through that before you add the third deck. And I think that would really change how the game unfolds, I guess. And I also thought, and I don't know, maybe it really isn't very puzzle-like, because I mean, mainly I was thinking that because going into, you know, getting to be like the last 10, I mean, I was almost all the way, you know, through all the cards, and I'm thinking, I'm doing great, like there's no way I'm going to lose. And like everything just fell apart there at the end. Everything just really went to shit. And like, you know, as you saw, I think, you know, there was, you know, several ways I could have lost there at the end. I think there's in two distinct ones on that last card play. And also I want to say that was totally not, like, I didn't, you know, seed it that way or anything. That is naturally the way it came. I thought it was pretty cool how it came down to turn over that last card. And it really, you know, mattered if that one front was going to advance or not. And, you know, and I haven't double checked this, but I don't think, I was pretty sure in Levion Mas that when one of the armies gets into Paris, you don't lose automatically. You have until the end of your turn to get rid of them, to, you know, push them back out. I thought that's how that worked, but I double checked a couple times. I was thinking, am I reading this right? But yeah, it says that you instantly lose the game when, you know, when that happens, or like when all three ethnic groups go into revolt. You know, that's it. You've lost. Yeah, I really enjoy it. I will definitely continue playing it. Try to play it. Hopefully, try to win it. Yeah, I highly recommend it. Check it out. Oh, and anyone who was wondering about the beer, you know, I was actually going to drink some Dos Equis after I got done, and then I remembered I had this. There's a store in town that sells a lot of craft beer, and I remember, like, oh, that's right, I got that one that's got you know, Nicholas II on the label. I'm like, that's perfect. It's an imperial stout. I don't, hold on. I think overall I like stouts, but I think what I really like is Guinness. And I don't know, I wouldn't say I'm like a huge, like, stout fan in general. Maybe I've had a few other ones. There's an oak barrel stout made by Dominion, which is local in Virginia, another, you know, Virginia, you know, craft brewery. That's okay, and this I actually like better. It's got a real, I don't want to turn this into like the beer fucking cast, because I really don't like that, but it's real chocolatey. And hey, what I really like about Guinness is, you know, when you buy the cans and it has like the whatever the nitrous is, or whatever, the little pellet in it that makes it foam up nice. Because here, I mean, yeah, I had a huge head pouring it right into the glass, but now it's kind of like nothing. And I don't know, it's not bad. I wouldn't seek it out again, but whatever. Later.